Hey everybody, it's Jaha Zainabu, and welcome to Storytime with Jaha Zainabu 7. And today I am going to talk about we're going to talk about writer's block. I mentioned in I don't remember one of the other story times excuse me, that I didn't believe in writer's block. I'm not going to say everything that I said in that one, but if you didn't see it, then go back and watch it. I don't remember which one. This is only Storytime 7, so there are 6 others. But I said I don't believe, wow, in writer's block because I think that when we sit down to write, and we sit down and we say, what will I write about? Something shows up and we judge that that is not significant enough, or that is too sensitive, or that is or I don't want to write about that, but something shows up. We keep swiping left. That is not the same as writer's block. Yeah, that is not the same. There is, and I think one of the many reasons we swipe left on the ideas that show up is because a lot of times we write like, whatever I write, I have to read to the world. The whole world has to hear it. The whole world has to read it. That is not what we are saying at all. I am saying sit down and write consistently. My pattern is every day. You choose your own. Yeah, just sit down and do it. The thing about writing is sitting in the seat. It could be your journal entries count. Your blog posts count. Write a letter. Your letters count. Write a letter to yourself. That counts. Write a letter to someone you are seeking closure from. That counts. Write out your thoughts. That counts. Just get a story out. So for the exercise that I recommend is, perhaps you don't choose to sit down to write. So on a day that you want to write, but maybe nothing is coming up, sit down and just write out not even the full story. Write 10 random stories in your life. Whatever shows up that time, and you don't have to go into the story. Just write out 10 random stories in your life. Pick a party where you were in attendance, and you told a story that was fascinating or not. Maybe it was just a comment. Maybe it was just an answer to a question. Pick 10 random topics and just write those topics, not the story, just the topic. And see where your mind goes. And that actually could be your writing session for the day. Count that. So I don't want to ask you to do anything that I'm not willing to do. So I picked 20, just random topics. And we're going to chill for the hour that we chill. You know how we do. And I'll talk about just the random topics, like just to show that there is so much going on in our lives, so much going on in the world for there to be nothing to write about. And what about those times that I don't feel like writing? What about that? Write anyway. It doesn't have to be for 30, 40 minutes. Give yourself 10 minutes to honor your commitment to yourself. I don't know about you, but I have gone to work plenty of times um, not feeling like it. Um, Maybe y'all just have those really great jobs that you always feel like going to. Not here. Not your girl. So like I said, I just wrote down 20 random, and so I'm gonna talk about some of them in no particular order. I could have written 100. Um, I could tell a story about a wet stack of wood. Um, I'm not, it is nothing to do with my skill as a storyteller. Uh, it has to do with my willingness to tell a story, my willingness to tell the truth, my willingness to let it out, my openness to be creative. Um, and nobody, by the way, is telling you that your stories have to be true. We just want you to write. And if giving, going from your list of 20 topics is a good background, is a good start, lays a good foundation to your story, that's awesome. If you see a place in your story where you want to go somewhere else, that is great too, my love. That is great too. It all counts. Yeah, it all counts. Um, so I'm just looking at like number one on my list is what is happening in Los Angeles right now with ICE. This shit is fucking crazy and just makes me angry. Makes me angry. ICE in LA. Google it. Google will, as usual, bless your life. But to see footage of ICE showing up in people's homes, in churches, in schools, at graduations, at a party where they take the DJ before the party starts. It just is mean, is beyond mean. It is beyond mean. It is beyond sad. It is beyond enraging. I stand in solidarity with you, brown brothers and sisters. My heart just is, my heart is full. My heart is full. You just, I am sad at myself that that I sit in some kind of shock and awe. I am sad and mad at myself that this is surprising me. You just couldn't have told me. You couldn't have told me 5 years ago it was going to come this far. You just couldn't have. And here we are in 2025 with our brown brothers and sisters hiding out in church basements, in friends' homes, documented and undocumented siblings who are afraid to go to work, are afraid to take their children to the park, are afraid to leave the house because they might not come home. This is sickening. But there's nothing to write about, right? There's nothing to write about. So like I said, that was just number one. If I wanted to, I could expand that thought. As a further writing prompt, I could write a letter to the president. I could write a letter to the politicians. I could write a letter to ICE or write a letter to the girl whose father is not coming home, to the boy who will never see his mother again. And if this doesn't make you sad, I am sad, and I am sad for you. So, like I said, I'm just going to just spout out some random stories. Again, I'm no professional. I mean, I'm no authority figure on great authority on how to write. I'm not. I only know what I know. I only know that I have been writing for a very long time. I only know that I have been stuck so many times that I am a good resource for you getting unstuck. I am that. I am not the best poet in the world. I am not the best writer in the world. None of that even matters. I am never claiming that. I am only claiming that I know what I know about being consistent in writing. I am a published author. No, none of my books were on the New York Times bestsellers list. They weren't. No, I don't make a ton of money from my writing. No, I'm not the highest paid poet out there. If you are tuning in to get clues as to how you can get your Skrilla up, there's a poet out there, I'm sure. Google Saul Williams. Maybe he has a blog. I don't know. It's not here. And it's not what I promise. I promise that I can show you how to write consistently. I can give you prompts on not being stuck. Why I moved to Atlanta. Someone asked me that. People ask me that often. Why did you move to Atlanta from LA? Like LA is like Los Angeles is, Los Angeles will always be, home and wonderful to me. The story of why I moved to Atlanta. Well, I moved to Atlanta because this time in 2024, January, February, March 1st, 2024. Prior to March 1st, 2024, I was living in Los Angeles on Crenshaw Boulevard in a cute little apartment. And I was there for, I guess, a few years. Yeah, I moved there in 2020. So I was there for a few years with my son. And then in January 2024, we moved into LA. We moved into LA May 30th, 2024. I remember that because that was my sister's birthday. And then I'm not 2024, May 30th. I'm sorry, 2020. January 2024, my son got his own apartment. And hallelujah, because it's what he wanted. I want what he wants for his life. And that is what he wanted. He got his own place, a cute little place in LA where he could call home and his own. And I respect that. So when he moved out, the apartment where we were living in Los Angeles together was a place more expensive than I would have chosen for myself. But I did want my son to have a place that was nice, clean, safe, cute, to live. So we signed the lease there. Easy peasy. And when he moved in January, I was like, what I'm not going to continue to do is pay over $2,000 a month to live here. And so I didn't. My son moved into his apartment, and I gave away most of my things. I had a shit ton of books that I gave away, and really good books that I gave away. I gave away clothes, and my home decor went to my son to furnish his place and make it cute and his fly. So it went there. And I kept two what do you call it, book bags of clothes for myself. I was working at the time as a caregiver. I worked with an agency in Culver City. I had a couple of clients. My main client was a woman in LA. So I had two book back, you know what I'm saying, backpacks of clothes. And I moved into the Korean spa in LA. It's called the Grand Spa on 6th and Virgil, if you know it, in LA. It's $35 a night, and I could comfortably do that. And they have sleeping rooms. And by sleeping rooms, you don't get a room to yourself. There are about 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 really big lazy boys that you sleep in. And there are other women there. And it's a 24-hour spa. So you sleep as long as you sleep. And then if at 4 o'clock in the morning you want to get up and get in the jacuzzi, you do that. Or you get in the sauna, you do that. Or you want to take another shower, you do that. Or you just sleep, you do that. And there's free Wi-Fi. So I did that. And I would be in the spa, and there were a group of us there. Same, there were same faces almost every night. We didn't really, I didn't, some people did. I didn't make friends, talk. I didn't do any of that. I just got in the jacuzzi, got in the sauna. I took a shower, and I would get the blanket that they gave me and go to sleep. Check my email, check texts, and go to sleep. There were pretty much the same, like I said, the same women. There was a woman who, we were interesting characters. There was a woman who I called K-Day. K-Day, I called her K-Day because K-Day in Los Angeles is a rap station, hip-hop station. And she played hip-hop all night long, real loud on her phone, and dared and wished a motherfucker would tell her to cut it down. So that was K-Day. K-Day liked to sleep by the outlet. There was one outlet in that room. And K-Day somehow managed to get there first all the time and get the outlet. Damn our motherfucking phones, right? Our computers, right? But let K-Day have it. Like there were other places where you could charge up, but just not in the sleeping room. There was only one. And K-Day pretty much got it. K-Day was the arguer. She was if you snored, then you had smoke with K-Day. She didn't give a damn how old you were. She didn't give a damn what time it was. But if you started snoring, it didn't matter if it was 4 o'clock in the morning. Best believe K-Day was going to have something to say about it real loud. And you were going to fight her verbally, or you were going to find another sleeping room, or you just weren't going to snore anymore because K-Day wasn't going to have it. She didn't seem to get that we would all prefer the snoring to her bitch ass bitching, right? But I digress. So that was K-Day. There were other characters. So anyway, so I'm in the spa. And if you stay overnight, checkout is at 10 a.m., which worked fine for me because I didn't have to be at work until 11. and I didn't have a car at the time. I was catching the bus, and the bus stop was about maybe 2.5 blocks from the spa. So I would sleep in the spa. I would get up and get myself ready, and I'd be gone by 10. I'd be on the bus. I'd take the bus to work. My closest friend is an incredible woman named My Joy. Often, sometimes she couldn't. Sometimes she had other things to do, but often she would pick me up after work from the house, and she and I would eat or go have a drink or whatever. And then she would take me back to the spa, and all over. I didn't work weekends, so I'd do something else on the weekends. Maybe I would spend the night at My Joy's house or somewhere, or back in the spa, whatever. But so that was Urias moved out in January. I gave my notice, so that was from the middle of January until the end of January, and then now it's February. So at this point it's about 2 weeks and some days in the spa. February, let's say February, beginning of February. So let's say February 1st. I have a gig with Woman Preach. I mentioned before that for the past 15 years, I have served as the artist in residence for an amazing company called Woman Preach. And we do they're not seminars. They're academy classes in different schools and churches, mostly on the East Coast, sometimes in the South, or in Ohio, or wherever we are, but we're never on the West Coast. So the beginning of February is I have a Woman Preach gig in Atlanta. So I'm there the 1st until probably the 4th. And on the 4th, so I'm in Atlanta, it's on the 4th. I'm supposed to fly out the next morning. And my intention was to fly out the next morning into LAX, and then Uber or maybe My Joy or somebody would take me to the spa. That was the plan. But on the 4th, on the last day where I was in Atlanta for this gig, my good friend Inspire called me. And I know Inspire from LA, another awesome and amazing poet and storyteller. So Inspire is often in Atlanta. However, we are never in Atlanta at the same time. So we hang out in LA, but we are never outside of Los Angeles at the same time. So she knew that I was in Atlanta. So she called me, this is February, maybe February 4th, 2024, last year. So she called me while I was in Atlanta. And hey girl, hey, are you still in Atlanta? Yes, I am. She was like, hey, bet I'm here too. Let's hang out. Oh, fuck, I'm leaving tomorrow. So, she was like, don't, bet. And so I was like, you know what? Right. So I went to the program director at Woman Preach, and I was like, yo, can you extend my ticket? And I will stay here, stay in Atlanta for a week. I have 2 other friends who are in Atlanta who are like my brother and sister. They are married. And they have a house in Fayetteville. So I called them. Yo, can I stay at the crib for a week? Inspire is in town. I want to hang out with her. They were like, great, we'd love to have you. As a matter of fact, we have been thinking about reaching out to you to paint a mural in, on one of the walls in the studio. Easy. Yes. Say less. Yes, yes, yes. So I show, when the gig is over, my brother, we call him Food for Thought, Food for short. So let's call him Food for this story. So Food shows up at the hotel where I was staying. He took me to his home in Fayetteville. So Food is there. His wife Socks is there. Their daughter Love is there. We have a good meal, and it's what it is, and we have a good time. I think not the next day, but the day after, I started on the mural, and I worked on it the whole day. And it wasn't like a huge mural, just a painting on the wall. So I did that. I hook up with Inspire somewhere around the 6th or 7th. And we connect and have a great time. So we go, go have a drink, we get some food. And she says, like, so what are you going to do? Like, what is next step from the spa? Because sis, we can't have you in the spa. Yeah, I actually never complained about the spa. Truthfully, I didn't. It was $35 a night, okay, Beezy? So, but I knew that wasn't permanent. It wasn't, my permanent address. But I didn't have plans on, I had plans, but I didn't, I was not prepared to rent another apartment. So at best for me, I was thinking I'd rent a room in somebody's house. There's always that in LA. So I was thinking that I'd look into that. But she said, my homegirl, her best friend is a guy she grew up with, and his wife was also a friend of hers. So she said, she has property in Atlanta, like some houses, some apartments. Maybe there's something available and you can talk to her. Okay. So I was open to anything, because I really, to know me is to know I'm not I'm not really a roommate person. So while I was willing to rent a room in somebody's house, I knew that was going to be short-lived, because I don't, A, like being locked in the room the whole time, and B, I really don't like people there in the house with me. I love living alone. So, and then renting an apartment in LA is crazy dumb, especially if you're by yourself, because there's this crazy, you have to make 3 times the rent to live there, and rent in LA is ridiculous. In a decent neighborhood, you're talking, and I'm, maybe for a 1-bedroom, you're talking $2,000, $2,200 a month. And so let's say 2,000. So if I made both $6,000 a month, would I live on Crenshaw and 43rd? I wouldn't. So I didn't know what I was going to do. And then Inspire said, what about, my girl's property? So I was like, you know what? Call girl. So she called her. And so her friend said, you know what? I do have a place. Do you want to live like in the city or out in Fayetteville? No, I don't want to live out in Fayetteville because I don't even have a car right now. And I'm a city girl. And so I'd like to live in the city. I want to live close to where the shit is. But not the shit, if you know what I mean. Ugh. So she says, okay, great. Meet me at Whoop-Dee. Whoop. So she, Inspire, and I met her at Whoop-Dee Whoop, at the apartment. And I walk through, and it's lovely. And she and her husband have been doing great work in the unit. All new appliances, and the paint is done. There are wood floors. It's a pretty large 1-bedroom. LA standards, it would actually be considered like really large for a one bedroom. And the bedroom is large for me. So she said, when do you want to move in? So at this time, remember, it's about February 6th, 7th. We're somewhere around there. So she said, when do you want to move in? I said, I want to move in March 1st. So she said, if you want it, it's yours. I mean, I didn't get a discount on the rent or, a hookup. Just the hookup was that I didn't have to go through all the showing bank statements, and I didn't do all of that. If you want it, is yours. Pretty much based off of Inspire's word, Inspire vouching for me as a good tenant, a good person, a good, clean, decent human being, worthy of being her renter. And so, if you want it, it's yours. So I fly home, and she sends me the application. I fill it out via, everything's online. I fill it out, and I raise the money. I work more shifts. I continue to stay in the spa. I got the place. I just had to pay the money. And she needed the money by a certain time, obviously before March 1st. So I sent her, sent everything. She got the money. I was cool. She was cool. So March 1st comes, and it's March 1st. So the morning of March 1st, the night before March 1st, I stayed all night with at my sister's house. And as life would have it, her husband was flying out on March 1st as well. I think our flight time differences were maybe an hour or so. I don't remember who was leaving first. But so she's going to LAX anyway. I hop a ride with them. I have my same 2 bags. I have nothing is giving Whitney Houston, except I can't sing. So I have nothing but these 2 bags. I don't even have a blanket. So my sister was like, you know what? I never use this blanket. Why don't you take this? So I get on the plane with, I had to combine the 2, leave some stuff and combine like the bags into one, because the blanket, how did that work? I remember combining bags, but you get a carry-on and a personal item, when you fly. And the blanket, especially as large as it was, it's a queen size. So that would count as a carry-on. So I get on the plane with a big ass queen size blanket, which people have something to say. So what? I don't care. I got a new place in Atlanta. So I get on the plane with my blanket, with my backpack, and then it's maybe it's about 9 o'clock at night now. The flight from Atlanta to LA ain't no punk. It's about 4.5, 5 hour flight. Plus, I don't know if I flew straight through or not, but it's about 9 or so p.m. when I get to the airport in Atlanta. So I go to the Uber station, and catch an Uber there. I don't need to meet the landlord here, because I don't need keys. There's a code that opens my door. So she sends me the code. The Uber pulls up. I get out. I come in. I'm home. That's how I moved to Atlanta. I wasn't looking in Atlanta. I'm trying to get out of LA. I was trying to get out of the spa, and Atlanta showed up. That's how that happened. She had the landlord had a couch in the living room, a really big, beautiful couch. And so she was like, if you want me to get rid of the couch, I'll do that. No, say, don't do that, ma'am. Because I didn't have a bed. I didn't have anything. And so I bought a month later, I just bought the couch from her. So, and the couch is still in my living room. And when guests come, that's where they sleep. But that is how I got to Atlanta. That is the long story of how and why Atlanta. But when people say, why did you move to Atlanta? It's easier to give the weather, the trees, the seasons, the birds, the bees. It's because that story is too much for a stranger and mostly nobody's business, but now yours. So that's why I moved to Atlanta. Let's see, randomly on the list. So when I say I wrote a list, I really did. I wrote a list of some random shit, like what's a story in my life? And I just sat at my table or on my bed, truthfully. So I sat on my bed and I was like, what are 20 stories? I said, what are 10 stories that I could tell? I'm obviously not going to get through all of these stories. All of this is exercise of defeating writer's block. Because even if you don't write these stories down, if I just turned my recorder on and said this, and I titled it Why I Moved to Atlanta, and said everything that I just said, I could turn the recorder off and just transcribe it. And there's my writing for today. My writing for today is called Why I Moved to Atlanta. Post. Hey. So this is my why no writer's block. Why you're not going to sell me on nothing shows up. You can sell me on, I sat down to write and nothing that I felt like writing showed up for me. Own that. I'd buy that. I would buy that because I don't know that I would actually feel like writing why I moved to Atlanta. I don't know. Well, I do feel like writing about ICE in LA. I feel like writing about that. But I don't know that I would write why I moved to Atlanta. But on a day that I couldn't think of anything to write about, I damn sure would if that's what showed up. Okay, what's 3 on the list? 3 on the list is when I first moved, not moved, when I first went to Leimert Park, or went to the world stage in Leimert Park. You can Google the world stage in Leimert Park. Google Leimert Park. That will bless your life. Leimert Park, and Leimert is Leimert Park. Leimert Park in Los Angeles is LA's artsy community. You can get any artsy shit you need in Leimert Park. If you want some weed, if you want a good time, if you want a good conversation, if you want an African dress, if you want to do some poetry, if you whatever, it's in Leimert Park. And in Leimert Park, one of the businesses in Leimert Park is a performance gallery called the World Stage. And the World Stage, there is no telling the story of my life without the World Stage being one of the biggest chapters. Just isn't. I went to Leimert Park. I went to the World Stage in 1992. Sorry. So before 92, I was living in Long Beach. I was living in Long Beach. And when I was living in Long Beach, I was living in this apartment on Ocean Boulevard. And at the time, I was young. And at the time, I was married. And my ex-husband, well, he was my husband then, and he and I would go to this. It was a bookstore. It doesn't exist anymore, but there was a bookstore in Long Beach on Atlantic Avenue called Uhuru Sasa, which means freedom now. So Uhuru Sasa was the kind of the spot for two black, two strongers like myself and my husband. So we'd go and we hang out in at Uhuru Sasa, and I don't remember what night. Let's say Tuesdays. Tuesday nights we did poetry, and it wasn't a large crowd. There might have been 12 of us, and we put the seats in a circle, and we would do poetry. No, no big performance, just really from our seat, or if we chose to, we'd stand in the circle, but from our seat, we spit a rhyme. And I met some really interesting people there. And then my husband and I were not together. He went to wherever he went to, not in the state, but he left. He was gone. But I was still in the apartment on Ocean and still going to hanging out at Uhuru Sasa at the bookstore there, and still doing poetry on Tuesday nights there. I'd heard of the world stage. If you lived in LA County and you were black, and black, and down or whatever, then you heard of the world stage. You heard of Leimert Park. Leimert Park at that time was someplace that it was just always happening. You'd roll out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and the brothers would be playing speed chess, or there would be jazz coming from some coffee shop, or people would be in the middle of the street talking shit, or like it just was just a constant pop. And you heard, if you lived in LA County, you heard of the world stage. Billy Higgins is the world's most recorded jazz drummer. So Billy Higgins and phenomenal poet Kamal Daoud founded the world stage in, I don't remember the exact year, but maybe 87, 88, something like that. So they founded the world stage. And so now this is 92, and I'm at Uhuru Sasa, and I'm getting my poetry chops on. So two of the brothers, one of them was a brother named Kingpin. Kingpin was and is a rapper. So Kingpin was like, man, Jaha, you dope enough to go to the world stage. You should do it. You should do it. You should go to the world stage. And I was like, me? The world stage? What? And I was like, I was kind of getting my guts up to go present my poetry at the world stage in Leimert Park. And Wednesday night is the poetry night at the world stage. So one Wednesday night, did I even have a car at the time? I had a car and it got wrecked, but I'm trying to remember. No, I didn't have my own car. Maybe I borrowed my mom's car, some car, maybe my mom's or who's ever. So Wednesday night in 1992, I don't know what month. I don't know what month. And I get to the world stage. And V. Kali is at the front collecting the money. And at that time, it was $3 to get in. So I give her the money, and V. Kali is this. Now, today, she has locks down to that will drag the ground if she doesn't tie her hair up. But then she was bald, like this, my bald. So I walk in, and there's this striking older woman, and not old, just older than I am, and just a few years shy of my mother. And she just was kind. There was just this glow. There was just something, there was something about her that I needed to have. And I didn't have words for that. I didn't know what that feeling was, but I loved her. And so at the world stage, what they used to do is they would put all the, if you showed up on time to sign the list, and there were only 10 spots on the list, and the list would fill fast. And I got there in time to make the list. So my name was on the list, and they would put all the names on the list in a hat after the, if you wanted to, after the workshop portion of the world stage. So if you wanted to workshop, you would go first, and then your name would go on a hat if you wanted to do the open mic. I wanted to do the open mic. So my name's in the hat. I don't get called early. It's late. I might have been 8th, 9th, something like that. So they call my name, and the poets ahead of me were very good. And I was questioning myself, like, did I do the right thing? I mean, I'm dope at the bookstore in Long Beach, but what are they gonna receive me well? And I was feeling insecure. I was feeling some type of way, as we say. So they call my name, and I go up to the microphone. And I even said, like, I don't know if you're gonna like this, but here's my little poem. And so I do the piece, and they were floored. They just received me so well. And V. Kali especially was like, she was my amen corner. And boy, did I need that. So after the stage, people were coming up to me like, where are you from? Where you been? Are you what? You know? And then V kind of just took me. And she was like, come here. And so that night, she introduced me to Sequoia Mercier. Sequoia Mercier and V. Kali, for the past 33 years, were a major part of my life. Still are. Sequoia passed away January 26th this year. And I am still grieving that loss, even though we know we don't lose our family. The relationship just changes, shifts a bit. But I am still adjusting to the shift. This new relationship I have with Sequoia. So, so from that moment on, I had two aunties, godmothers, real cool friends who told dope ass stories. And that's how I got to the world stage in Leimert Park. It's interesting because if you walk down Degnan Boulevard in Leimert Park, and grab any random person and ask them to tell you their Leimert Park story, if y'all got time, you're gonna get a good story. You're gonna get a good story. So again, let's circle back. Let's say I sat down to write and I just couldn't think of a damn thing to write about. Ain't that a damn thing to write about? How I got to the world stage? So that's the thing. And I do tell the story of how I got to the world stage in my book, my ebook, Deep Down Memory Lane. The story is called Life from Here, because the story is about Sequoia passing. So I don't know what your list would look like. This is mine. And I'm just going to keep going. I don't know why I wrote this down, because it's not the happiest, I guess. So Sophia is what I wrote down next. And I'm just literally going down the list. Sophia. Sophia is a young woman that I grew up with. We attended the same church. We sang in the Angels Choir together. We sang in the youth choir together. We rode the church bus together. We were not one-on-one friends. We never visited each other's homes, but in a group, we would connect. She was beautiful and kind and very generous, and just generous with her being. You wanted to be around Sophia. You just did. And the the what year? Sophia was a senior in high school. So I think she was 1 year older than I. So this is 1986. So the Sunday, okay, yeah, this is 1986. So the Sunday before Mother's Day is in May. Yes. The Sunday before Mother's Day, we were in the back of the church, in the back room, I think, maybe we were preparing to sing. Maybe it was that youth choir day. For some reason, we were in the back of the church. And for all of us to have been together, I can only connect it to that. It was a youth choir thing. So we were in the back of the church, and she sat with me. And my given name is Robin, and she called me Robin. Her name was Sophia, and we called her her name was Sophia, and we called her Sophie. So Sophie sat with me, and she said, "Robin, you are really beautiful," which was not a thing people called me in 1986, and it embarrassed me. And I remember looking down, and I remember her lifting my head to look at her, which was not a gesture between two teenagers. But I looked at her, and she said, "You are. You are." And she said a few more things, and it was weird because we did have personal time, but not that was serious like that. And I just, okay, she wanted to call me beautiful. So it's the Sunday before Mother's Day. On that Sunday, it was a youth choir thing. On that, but we weren't singing. It was a youth thing because it's the Sunday before Mother's Day. We're in the back, and we were writing letters, not letters, but like notes to maybe a paragraph or so to our mothers. And those notes were going to go into a booklet. That booklet would be presented to the mothers the next Sunday for Mother's Day. So instead of just a card, or not a card, instead of just the flowers that we normally pass out on Mother's Day, we were presenting these booklets. So we were in the back of the church writing our notes when Sophie said this to me. And then May 9th, I don't know what day of the week that was, but it was May 9th because May 9th is significant to me to this day. May 9th, 1986, Sophie gets off the bus or gets dropped off at home from school. She goes into her house where she lived with her mother. She also had a brother. I don't think he lived there, but she also had a brother. But she lived with her mother for sure. She called her mother to ask if I think she would be home soon or something like that. I guess her mother said yes or something. I don't know. That part's iffy. I don't know why, but I don't know how she got a gun. But Sophie, on that day, May 9th, 1986, shot herself in the head. And it fucked us all up. I had heard as a child, I had heard of suicide. I didn't know anyone who had done that. And then for Sophie to have was because none of it made sense to me. Like, and on paper, Sophie was beautiful. She was popular. The boys liked her. She could sing really well. She had friends in the church. Like, why? Nobody knew. Nobody knew. But that is what she did on May 9th. So now, the next Sunday is Mother's Day. And we get the booklets that we're supposed to pass out. And when you open the first page of the booklet, whose note appears first but Sophie's? Sophie's note to her mother. And her mother did not often come to church, but her grandmother was a regular member there. And she was crushed like she would be. I don't remember if we actually passed out the books. I just remember that Sophie's was on the first page. I think that her grandmother did read it because I remember her grandmother being like kind of fucked up. So I mean, I know why I wrote Sophie down because that is a story of my life. That is significant in my life. So, writer's block? No. Because there's always the Sophie story. Now, if the world doesn't read about Sophie, that's not what I promised. I didn't promise that I would expose my stories, every one of them, to the whole world. But that one, I could write. If I had nothing to write about, Sophie would show up. And Sophie, because Sophie showed up on this list, make a list. Make a list. You have stories. You have stories. What's next? Okay, the next one, which will probably be the last. You know what? I don't know if I want that to be the last story, though. Okay. This is a story. I hope I tell this right. This is an example of using just conversations and things that you pick up on the street and just using them as your writing prompt. I was in, where was I? I was in Inglewood one day at the Family Dollar. And I walk into the Family Dollar and there is this woman, a black woman, tall, big, she's my height, my size, and she's towering over this young Mexican woman. And the young woman was one of the cashiers at Family Dollar. So when I walk in, I don't know what's happening. And I'm thinking, like, did this woman get accused of stealing, or like, what is the thing? She's a black woman, and I do immediately like stay there for her defense. Like, whatever's going down is not going down without her not having, I don't know, company with it, right? So immediately I realize that it is not the black woman who is being attacked. It is, or accused of something. It's the Mexican woman, but I stay there. So I'm listening, and the black woman's like, you did too. And so the young woman says, ma'am, I did not disrespect your daughter. I didn't. Who's your daughter? Like, I didn't do that. I didn't disrespect your daughter. And it's that you did. I did not. You did. I did not. It was that exchange. So finally, and why does this show up as a writing prompt? Because it's hella funny to me. So the lady said, I know you disrespected my daughter because when I was sitting in the car, and when my daughter came out, the way she twisted her neck, I knew it because she only twists her neck like that when she been disrespected. So I know you did. That shit floored me. Bitch, if you don't get the fuck out of here talking about your daughter's goddamn neck, I'm gonna fuck you up myself, okay? So, yeah. It ended with the woman apologizing for disrespecting her daughter based on her daughter's motherfucking neck twitch. The black woman goes about her day seemingly somehow slightly satisfied with the apology. And I mean, that was probably what number was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories. Are they, stories I would stretch out into a book? Probably not. Well, maybe the world stage story, truthfully, because there's so much to be told about the world stage. But probably not. Probably am going to keep that in my notebook. I don't know your stories, but you do. Some of them are your, I don't know, rape stories, your whatever stories, your this stories, your, success stories, your when you got an award, when you gave birth to your child. We all have them. You don't live this life without having a story. I was almost going to say unless you are locked in a basement. And then you really got a story. You're locked in a basement, you got a story. So we all have them. This is why I can't get down with writer's block. I can get down with I don't feel like writing today. I can get down with it for a minute. I can't get down with it. There's just nothing showed up. I can't. So that's, again, those are 6 small, quick stories. Just sit down and write a list. Count the list as your writing exercise for the day. 10 stories that just poof come up. You know what I might start doing is beginning these Storytime videos with 1 or 2 stories. I'm never going to run out of them. So 1 or 2 stories, and then I'll do, I'll go into whatever I'm talking about for that day. I do hope that you are well, my friends. Our time together today is coming to a close, but you can peruse the other videos. I look forward to talking to you mañana. Love, late.